It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
This is one that nerds like us love. Do the math.
Yeah, obviously, retirement, when most people talk about it, they're thinking about the functionality of leaving the workforce and the psychological part of that and not having to answer to the man. But frankly, there's a lot of mathematics that go into that decision.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. All through your working career, you're trying to save money, like through emergency reserves and other things in case you lose your job. You also worried about some of the unknown emergencies that might happen in your life. Now, amplify that by 10 in retirement, because now if you enter a recession or a bear market, it's not like you just do the typical coping mechanism of going, you know
I'll
what?
just work a little bit
I'll
more.
just work a little bit longer. It'll be okay. We'll just grow our way through this. When you're actually retired, you will be living off of these assets. That will create a stress unlike anything you've ever experienced. So I always recommend to people, since you will be facing stress as well as now you have to rely upon your assets only, you might want to measure twice, cut once, and let's actually stress test this retirement plan.
Yeah, one of the things that we do for all of our clients before we'll actually sign off saying, yes, you are at the financial independence point, yes, you are ready to retire, is we actually do a full in-depth retirement plan where we want to talk about how often do you replace cars and what kind of money will you spend and how much will insurance cost and how much do you want to give to kids and grandkids. And we run all of these different variables in some software. And then we want to run through a Monte Carlo simulation to figure out our probability of success. So given all the different market environments we could enter into, there's a 90% or a 94% or an 86% probability that you'll be able to get all the way to the end of your plan without running out of money. Well, if you know that going into retirement, that you have a 95% probability of success without having to change behavior, without having to eat cat food hamburger patties in retirement, you can have a lot more comfort knowing I'm prepared for retirement, I've done the hard work, I've done the math, and I can do this.
I would have probably gone with potatoes before I jumped right into cat food.
The cat food hamburger patty, man.
I think there was another step there before we got to cat food. And by the way, while Bo has this on the screen, we've done this where we've done some fire episodes where we use some of our stress testing software that we use for retirement planning. And there was a little confusion from some of the comments I saw where you guys were picking on financial planners. You said they always use these linear assumptions where you're making 7-8% a year. And I was like, no.
Nope.
We're actually doing Monte Carlo simulations where we're taking 1,000 scenarios where we're putting a 2008 also with a 2001, and then we're strapping that on the back of 2015. So we're mixing years, so you get you're getting the bottom 2.5% return performance. You're getting it right in the median, or right in the middle there, and then you're also getting the top 2.5%. We can run it however you want it. What our biggest goal is to let you know, do you have the probability of success that you can let your army of dollar bills do the work for you, and you can do what you love and let the quit focusing on what's going on out there in the financial world?
Yeah, when you decide to leave the workforce and stop working with your hands and your back and your feet, it's not a matter of if there will be a psychological change. It's a matter of how severe will my psychological change be. Well, if you can go into it knowing that this psychological change is going to happen, and you know that you've put the time in and done the extra measuring and done the extra analysis, you can know that, yeah, even though my psychology will change, I'm covered, I'm set, I've stress tested it, I can make it through whatever the financial markets want to throw at me.
There's also some behaviors that can make you feel better about it. Let's talk about a few of those things. I know it, I kind of look at it as you're going downhill, but you see right ahead of you is this steep hill. What do you typically do? You hit the accelerator.
Sure.
You try to drive through it to a degree. I think if you're quickly approaching retirement in the next 24 to 36 months, maybe you do want to hyper save a little bit, because let's go do two things for you. If you hyper save right before you actually enter retirement, it also lets you kind of challenge yourself to see how thin you can get your living expenses in some of those years right before you're on full-time retirement. It's a powerful momentum builder.
So, Brian, I've been saving my entire life, and I've been hitting the 20 to 25% because I'm an avid Money Guy listener. Are you telling me that in the last year or two before I retire, maybe I should start trying to save 40 to 50%?
I don't know if I'm going to that extreme.
Yes, absolutely, because if you can prove that you can do that. Now, I agree, it's an extreme, and it's probably pretty hard to do. But if you can live off of 40 to 50% of what you're making, and it works with you've already kind of proven to yourself that you can live on 40 to 50%, right? I mean, like that's pretty much a given.
Here's the only thing I do want to put a caveat here. I don't want where if you're the grandparents that you're inviting everybody over for Christmas, you're providing them meals, you give good Christmas gifts, and I don't want because you watch this show and Bo just what he said, you go, guys, heard from my financial guys. They told me, you know what, Christmas is off this year.
We're going to send everybody
no
invoices.
stockings. We're, come back and see me 3 years from now. We'll get you hooked up. But just don't mishear us. I still want you to take time to live life because there is a balance between saving and not becoming a miser and making sure you're doing this right. So I think you have to be careful. And then here's something I think is interesting. And you've told us this is your least favorite slide that we do, but it's important for me. We usually roll this out for the financial independent retire early slides, because this is people, if you think you want to leave the workforce really early, I'm completely fine with it. However, I have a little bit of a different worldview towards it because I watched my father lose his job in his mid-40s, and I know how hard it is when you leave a job in your 40s, his was not by choice, to get back on the train, because a lot of people, they're not as excited about us mid-40-year-olds. I mean, because, we have a lot of knowledge, but they're like, well, there's a few more years left in that guy. Look, I'm 47, so I can pick on myself. But I'm just telling people, measure twice, cut once, and the fact that you want to be careful and know what you're leaving from, because the reality is, if you do this voluntarily, you might be walking away from some of the peak earning years you can have.
Yeah, so here's some data from CPS ASEC, and what it shows is, at every age, with the average medium income or the 75% income threshold, the 25% income threshold, well, I think what's interesting is that all those different levels of income, wherever in the strata you fall, you can see that those in the 40s, 50s, approaching 60, those are the highest earning years. No matter what level of income you're at, it's kind of in your 40s and 50s where it's at its peak.
Well, and by the way, I felt like the way I just set that up, after we get through with this show today, y'all might put me out to pasture because I made it seem like once you get in your late 40s that you're kind of your best years are behind you. That is absolutely not true. I have many more years ahead of me, but I'm just telling you, sometimes it is harder to walk into brand new professions once you've had a few years under your belt. So that's the only thing I tell you to be very careful of. I know you'll go here multiple times on today's show. Measure twice, cut once. Know the why and make sure that you're not doing it for the wrong reasons.
The second part of doing the math is really kind of understanding where your income in retirement is going to come from. Have you done some analysis on Social Security? When is the optimal time for you to start taking? Is it as early as possible? Is it as late as possible? Is it at full retirement age? And then pension. Should I take a lump sum benefit? Should I take an annuitized benefit? All of those decisions are going to affect the viability of your retirement plan long term.
Yeah, and don't just assume, because I had a lot of people growing up, 62, they were waiting to get to 62 so they could take Social Security. That might be a sucker's bet.
That's
you
right.
might want to take it at full retirement age, which might be 66, 67. And then here's the other thing. If you're still working, you're somebody like me, you plan on kind of doing this for a lot longer. If you have good income coming in, you reach 67 years of age, you might want to just keep on letting Social Security grow, because after full retirement age, it actually increases the benefit by 8% per year all the way until you turn to 70. And there's not many things out there that are going to pay you 8% guaranteed.
So not only do you need to think about income sources from other parties like a pension, like Social Security, you also need to think about how you're going to generate your own income. When it comes to retirement, you've done a good job of building up this pot of assets. How do I know which buckets to pull from and how much to pull from each? Because certainly that's going to have an impact on your retirement plan.
Well, Bo, I thought it was very interesting. You pulled on my accounting heartstrings a little bit when we were doing show prep on this, because we were talking about the bucket strategy. When we're saving money, we have a strategy that we do. And typically the way it works is while you're young and the lower tax brackets, you want to be saving those Roth assets so you can really stick it to our government legally by tax-free growth. And then after you get through the Roth assets, you're probably going to start rolling into that tax-deferred account, because that's your 401ks, your 403bs, and your traditional IRAs. Those are great because they're going to give you a tax deduction, but when you pull them out, it's going to be ordinary income, and they're going to force you to do it at 72. And then typically as people get a little bit older, say in their 40s, 50s, they realize, wow, it's great that I've got these Roth assets, I've got these tax deferred, but you know what I need? I need some liquidity. I need some, this is really getting into step 7 of the financial order of operations, which is hyperaccumulation, where you worry about those buckets. Here's a phenomenon you realize after you get through step 7, and in that last step you're doing after tax, like a brokerage account, so you have maximum liquidity. When you reach retirement, you're probably going to do it in LIFO, meaning that you're going to
Now, LIFO, you got to explain that for all the non-accounting folks out there.
Well, in accounting terms, I'm just going to tell you what LIFO means. It means last in, first out, when you're trying to figure out on the like inventory and other types of systems on what you cost stuff at. And it was so beautiful the way you did. You speak the same language as me, because it's true, is that those last assets that come into your retirement plan are probably the first ones you're going to use, because if you retire at 55 or 60 years of age, you're probably going to say, you know what, which bucket is it going to pull and survive and get me through this? It's going to be that after-tax brokerage account. And then you're going to think about, okay, well then by 72, Uncle Sam's going to force me to start pulling out that tax deferred. The last bucket you'll probably want to touch is the one that's not paying any income taxes and has the compounding growth maximized and is a great estate planning tool. That's going to be your Roth asset. So it works out in a really beautiful way.
So we just told you it comes out that way. It comes out taxable first, and then it comes out pre-tax, and then it comes out Roth. It's not quite that simple, but it gives you a really good average way to think about it, because what happens is in your unique circumstance, what you'll really probably do is pull out of the different buckets in different amounts in different years. It's a little more structured than that, but it gives you a nice, just like the financial order of operations for building wealth is custom to your situation, the financial order of operations for distributing wealth should also be custom to your unique situation.
That leads to, this is something that's, guys, we're probably going to get more comments off this next section than anything else. Safe withdrawal rates.
Yep.
Now, back when this was all put together, originally a safe withdrawal rate was that the traditional 4% rule, where this is the level of money you could pull out essentially at 4% of your assets each year, and it will last forever for a traditional 30-year type of retirement.
Yep.
Things are a little different now is because it's been expanded. There's several pieces out there, especially for our FIRE movement people. You're retiring sooner than, in your 60s, like traditional. And then there's also the original author for the FIRE movement has come out with from the Trinity study, and he said, hey, maybe that number should have been 5%.
Sure.
They've actually pushed it up. But we've decided, instead of getting you all caught up in all the nerdiness, we would just kind of give you some guidelines, general guidelines of what safe withdrawal rates are by age if you're retiring.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if you're someone who's planning on what we're going to call retiring early, you're part of the FIRE movement, you're going to retire in your 40s, in your age 48 to 50, you probably want to think about a safe withdrawal rate of about 3.5%. If you're someone who's going to retire between about 50 and 60, we think it's okay if you bump your safe withdrawal rate up to 4%. If you're someone retiring in your 60s, so this would be like average retirement rate, we think you can go up to a 4.5% withdrawal rate. And then if you're someone who does work until 70, it probably is okay for you to have a 5% or even greater long-term withdrawal rate. Again, the way that you will know is by running this through a full retirement plan, doing the Monte Carlo analysis to determine what your plan actually looks like. But this should give you some really solid rules of thumb to kind of do some back-of-the-napkin math.
Yeah, I mean, this is the type of stuff that a lot of people are going to really love to take what they have in assets, try to figure out what they think it'll be worth. They'll take present value, future value it up, and then multiply it by one of these safe withdrawal rates. You're going to have lots of fun. So enjoy it in all your nerdy ways. We get it. We understand. We do it too.